Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to discuss some basic thing of Simplex algorithm, which is linear programming. So I'm making this video just only that if when I will going to make another video of Simplex algorithm, it will help you to understand the Simplex algorithm method very easily, because while doing the mathematics, if I want to describe all this thing or discuss all this thing, that will make a lengthy of the mathematics, and that will make a video lengthy, that will eat your lots of time. So I'm making this video just to make clear some basic term of Simplex algorithm, so that you won't be disappointed after watching that video that you didn't understand the Simplex algorithm method. So before going to that video, of course you must watch this video so that you will understand the basic term of Simplex algorithm method. The first thing I want to say is that for solving a Simplex algorithm method, we need to go some procedure, and for that procedure we need some variables. So I'm not going to describe how we're going to enter those variables. So what I'm going to do is just describing only those variables simply. The first thing we need to know about the thing is that two variables we need to know, describe broadly, which is known as surplus variable and slack variables, and what these things are actually mean. Okay, so the first one I want to describe about slack variables. Okay, before going to describe about the slack variables, I want to say why this is saying a Simplex algorithm method. What does this algorithm mean? Algorithm means a continuous procedure that you have to do continuously until it become until you reach a final point. So you have to do it continuously until you reach a final point. So this is the main thing Simplex algorithm means, that while we are going to find out the solution, either maximizing profit or minimizing cost, so what we have to do through this process is continuously doing until we reach a solution. There is no limit, or at the beginning you can say that you are going to end or find out the result with 4 steps or 5 steps or 6 steps. If you didn't find in 4 steps, you have to go to the 5th step. If you couldn't find the solution in 5th step, then you have to go to the 6th step or 7th one continuously. So this is why it is saying algorithm as usual, and the method name is Simplex algorithm. So the first thing we need to know, and the basic term, we have to add variables, either slack variables or surplus variables. So first one, we have to know about the slack variable. I'm going to describe the slack variable. What does it mean? Okay, so slack variable is a thing when your objective functions or basic terms are given as less or equal. So in case of this sign is given as your problems, in your problems, less or equal, so that is why you're going to use slack variables. For example, in case when our problems are actually minimum, when our problems are actually maximum, we found such kind of thing. Like if you have any functions or inequalities in your problem, like this, less or equal 30. So this is the problem. We can read it, the 5x1 plus 3x2, which is less or equal 30. So where you are seeing there's two things in this. One is inequalities, another one is equations. So if we want to make this inequalities into equations, what do we have to do? Say there is two things. One is 5x plus 3x2 equal to 30. This is one case if we consider it is equal. And another case, if we consider it's not equal, or in case the x1 and x2 values are not giving a value that is going to the left hand side will be equal to 30. So it must be less than 30. So in that case, the 5x1 or 3x2 will be less than 30. So this is the two cases included in this inequalities. So as we're saying, it could be either equal to 30 or it could be either less or less than 30. So this is the two cases. So what are we going to do right now? For solving this problem and make a solution of these two problems and make two things in a same equation, if we want to convert these into equations, we need to add a variable in here that will solve this problem, because there is two equation and one equality. So there is two issue in this problem or in this equalities. But if we want to convert into equation without if we don't make the equation, that we won't be able to find out the value of x1 and x2. So if we want to convert this thing into equation, so we have to add a extra variable. So how are we going to add the extra variable? Say in case if this left hand side, that means x1 and x2 equal to 30. So what are you going to do? So let's consider that we want to convert this thing into equation. So x1 5x2 plus okay, say consider s1 equal to 30. So we added an extra variable named as s1 to make this inequalities as an equation. So if this left hand side is equal to 30, then the variables value, our added variables value will be 0. If it's not true that the value of 5x1 and 3x2 is not equal to 30, it's less than 30. So in that case, s1 has some value which is difference between 30. That means if you take these inequalities, take these variables into this side, that will lead a negative value, not negative, yeah, say as 5x1 3x2 equal to 30 minus s1. So you are seeing in here, if this is less than 30, that means it is equal to 30 minus s1. That will lead us a lower value than 30, and that will be equal to the left hand side, and the right hand side will be both same. So in this case, we added, or saying added a plus sign here. So we added a s1, which is considered as extra variable and named as slack variables. So this is what we added, a slack variable in here. If the case is equal to the constant, that will lead a 0 value of this, because watch here, if 5x1 and 3x2 is equal to 30, so obviously there is nothing we can add here, so s1 must be 0. Now is our extra variables, we added extra, so it's not a part of our equation, we added extra, so the value of s1 will be 0, because 30 minus 0 equal to 30. Okay, so but if the case is this, that means 5x1 and 3x2 is less than 30, so there must be some value of s1 that if we subtract the value of S1, which is a constant or something like that, and lower than 30, that will decrease the value of the constant here, and also this will make similarities or equalities in here with left hand side and right hand side. This will balance the thing. So there is some so we can say the value of S1 is the value of S1 is positive and equal to the difference between 30 and these things. So we can say it by another using another equation, that from here you can use it here, that S1 is equal to 30 minus 5x1 plus 3x2. So this is the value of S1, that the value of S1 will be positive, and of course it will be the difference between 30 and the basic variables. So this is our slack variables in case of when the problem is less or equal. When the problem is less or equal. In case of less or equal, we use an extra variable that is going to consider as slack variables. So this is what. So in case of S1, the value of S1 will be considered as it is positive value, it holds a positive value, and that is the difference between constant and our this portion. That's mean the value of our coefficient or total equation value, and which contains x1 and x2 included with their coefficient. So similar case in case of surplus variable. In case of surplus variable, surplus variable is used only in case of when the problem is greater or equal. I mean inequalities. In case when we are going to convert these inequalities into equation, then we add an extra variable which is considered as surplus variable. Say if our problem is like 4x1 plus 7x2 is less or equal 60. Sorry, greater or equal 60. So in this case, we are saying this is saying either the portion of this, if either the left hand side is either equal to 60 or is greater than 60. So we have two portion as same before, either equal to 60 or 4x1 plus 7x2 is greater than 60. So which one is correct? We don't know right now. So what we have to do is just add a variable to find convert this one into equation, because in equation we can't use both at the same time. We can't use both at the same time. So what we have to do is, if we want to keep this both in the equation at the same time, so we have to add extra variable. So let's add an extra variable, and I'm not going to say okay, there's a possibilities from this equation that this portion could be larger than 60. This portion could be larger than 60. There is a possibilities, cause according to this, or it could be equal to this. So what we have to do is, if this portion is equal to 60, we don't have to do anything. So if we want to convert this equation, this would be like this, because if this portion is equal to 60, we already found it, but what are we going to do in this case? It's saying it is greater than 60. So obviously we have to add something with 60 to balance this thing, or this part, right? Okay, so if we want to balance both sides, so we have to add something with 60 that will balance the extra portion of this. So from this equation, what we can do is just take the S1 here. So it is going to express something that we subtracted an extra variable from our this portion from which is equal to 60. That's mean if we want to balance the inequalities and make a equation that will lead, we have to subtract something from a left hand side that will make a balance with 60. Why we are going to subtracting it? Because if this portion is larger than 60 by confirming this, so obviously if we want to make balance with 60, we have to reduce some portion from here. So we are reducing S1. There is a positive value of S2. There is a positive value of S2, and the value is equal to 4x1 plus 7x2 minus 60. So the value is equal to the difference between 4x1 7 plus 7x2 minus 60. So this is it. It's a positive value. I mean S2 is holding a positive value, and which is equal to the coefficient, the summation of coefficient of basic variables and the constant. This is the difference between coefficient and the summation of basic variables with constant. So this is it. S2 has some holding some variables, and what we are seeing that in case of greater or equal inequalities, we are subtracting something. We consider is we added an extra variable. We are subtracting some values from the left hand side to make a balance with the constant. So that is what is considered as surplus variables. So in case of greater or equal inequalities, we're using an extra variable which is considered as surplus variable, and in case of less or equal inequalities, we're using an extra variable, and we are adding this variable to make an equation that is considered as slack variables. So in case of less or equal, the variable will be slack. The variable will be slack, and in case of greater or equal inequalities, the variable will be surplus. That means we have to reduce surplus. So slack variable, we have to add the slack variables, and we have to subtract. We have to subtract the surplus variable. So that is what basic thing of slack and surplus variables of simplex algorithm method. This is the basic term. We have to add these two variables by knowing whether it's a max problem or mean problem. So in case of max problem, we will always find a less or equal, I think. In case of mean problem, we'll find a greater or equal. So in case of max problem, we have to use maybe slack variable, but in case of mean problem, we may have to use surplus variables. It could be changed, we don't know, but it's the basic thing. So in case of less or equal, you have to use a variable that will be named as slack variable, and you have to add that to make those inequalities into equations. So in case of main problem, the variables, and if the subject to functions equal signs are like this, that's mean greater or equal sign, you have to add an extra variable, and you will going to call it surplus variable, and you have to subtract it, from for making the equation from inequalities. So another thing is very uncommon, but we need to know about that, is what is dummy variable. Okay, In those previous two variables has an economic interpretation, but in case of dummy variable there is no economic interpretation. This variable just used only if your slack or surplus variables become negative for the first term. I mean, if in the first matrix formation when you are going to solve a simplex algorithm, if the surplus or slack variables are holding a negative value, in that case you have to use another variables, or you have to add another variables in your mathematics to solve it that will be considered as positive, that is holding a considerably that is holding a positive value, and the variable's value is much larger than we think, so that variable value can't be negative. So that is what that will be considered as a dummy variable. So say if you're solving a mathematics and the primary the value of S1 and S2 or S3, whatever it is, so your surplus or slack variables, if the value become negative, so you have to add another variable named dummy variable. So with the dummy variable you will going to solve it, and you have to consider that the variables the value of dummy variables is positive and the value is extremely large and it can't be negative. So that is how you're going to solve in case of when your slack or surplus variable become negative in the first case. So this is the three basic things we need to know about before we are going to solve simplex algorithm method. So I have described why it's called simplex algorithm, and I'm going to showing you a little procedure of a simplex algorithm method, how we're going to solve it. So first we have to construct a table. So there will be three portions how we're going to construct the table. Number one will be have to construct the matrix form. You have to convert the equations from inequalities. Equations from inequalities. You have to construct the equations from inequalities. Then you have to construct the matrix formation. Then what you have to do is construct the basic table. So this is our first thing for simplex algorithm, and then we have to go to the step 2. In step 2 we'll describe about pivot and pivot element. We have to describe about the pivot. What is pivot? What is pivot element? And pivot element, and how we're going to find the pivot row and how we're going to find the pivot column. Please don't take it seriously. It's not written as simultaneously. So previously we have to find out the pivot column, then we have to find out the row. The intersection of pivot column and pivot row is considered as pivot element. So that is what pivoting is. So number 3, I will describe this in step 2, and number 3 is known as pivoting. So what we're going to describe here, we have to apply in step 3. So that is what considered as pivoting. And the 4th step is optimization. Optimization. So I'm going to end here that your 4th step will be optimization. It could be the 6th or 5th one. We don't know, because it's depending on our problem. As I described earlier, that is a simplex algorithm, that there is a continuous process until you find the optimization, until you find the optimized, until you find the extreme value of cost or profit. So the optimization could be your 5th step or 6th step. We don't know. If you couldn't find it in 4th step, you have to go for the 5th one. And if you fail to find the optimized, extreme value in the 5th step, what you have to do is go for the 6th one. And if you fail for the 6th one, you have to go for the 7th one. So we don't know what would be our optimization and what in where we are going to find out the extreme value. So these are the basic things about a simplex algorithm. Please watch this video before you push yourself into knowing about simplex algorithm method. So stay tuned and watch my next video to know about simplex algorithm method. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe my channel.